folks, welcome to another Besides and On podcast. A special one today. We have a returning old friend.
Yes.
We have Caz Paul on the line from the Scottish Libertarians. How are you doing, Caz?
Very well, thanks, guys. It's really good to be back.
Oh, defo, man.
I think either the last time you were on or the time before that, we sang a song.
Yes, you did.
Oh, we might have done. We might have sung a tune or two.
Yeah. Tune the fat tunes, on the go, all day.
All day and all night.
Yes.
So way to go. I think this is going to be completely different to any podcast we've done before. This is like a remote call. So,
yeah.
Obviously, we would much prefer to have people in, but due to the current issues,
yeah,
or as some people call it, the ongoing global bastard.
Yes.
That may or may not come up tonight.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Oh, but doesn't he? I'm quite happy with the way things are.
Tell you what, that's brilliant. Let's just do it. Let's just skip right over it. Not
pretend nothing's happening. It's a perfect normal day, normal year, normal couple of years. It's been fine. What's been going on with you?
Normal years. It's been absolutely fine. Yep, got a few hobbies. Day drinking. You know, that's becoming a good one. You know, not that thing we're not talking about related.
Yeah.
Just sky falling in general. You know.
It's been awesome.
Should we start from the beginning?
Let's do it. It's good. Always a good place to start.
Yeah,
defo, man, defo. So
this is your bit.
This is my shitey wee bit at the beginning. Let's talk about your childhood, Caz. Let's go back into the psychological realms of childhood.
See where it all went wrong.
See where the libertarian.
That's definitely where it started wrong.
Defo, man, defo. So, what was your childhood like, Caz?
Childhood, fairly run of the mill, to be honest. I've got a pair of great parents that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world, and a great sister that I grew up with who's 10 years my senior. So she had a good hand in sort of pointing me in all the wrong directions as well. So it was it was fairly run of the mill. I went to primary school in Glenrothes, and then moved across to Scotland when we moved house a little bit earlier in my life. Went to high school in Kinross and then moved back to Glenrothes again into Glenwood. Left school a little early, as a lot of us tend to do.
Definitely.
And so that was pretty much that in a nutshell. It was not really much to report. I was a fairly sort of creative yet rebellious young lad. So I was flitting from school to school quite a bit.
When did you sort of eventually get into politics? I remember you said it was independence, and so like, were you like, how old are you now? Are you old? I can't remember.
I'm getting on. I'm 35 now.
Right.
You know, but I've had a fairly easy paper round. I tend not to look at. But no, you're quite right. It was around about the independence referendum, because independence is one of these things that's now become the sort of like the main issue. It's the golden policy that's kind of holding all this together. And right at the time when I was first getting into politics, I didn't even know what left wing or right wing meant. I was even one of those not so proud people to go into Facebook and say, right, people, come on. I've always been told if I can't complain if I don't vote, and I'm not voting if I don't know what the script is. So someone explain it to me. And at the time, it's like, I mean, Scotland's a fairly left-wing country anyway. But at the time, the left movement, the independence movement had been sort of really, really kind of embraced by the left side of politics at that time. And all my lefty pals were like, oh, this is, since I was in independence, and it was like I was getting into it, and they saw me as a potential ally. So they were like, okay, we'll give you the very biased, admittedly, kind of rundown of what it was. So I started to make sort of pals in that kind of groups and stuff. And independence was, during the 2014 referendum, it was great. I mean, I thought it was awesome. I'd never seen the country so sort of alive with, like passion and patriotism and all that kind of thing. And I thought all these kinds of things were really good. And of course they are. And so I got kind of swept away in that. And after the referendum, after that really disappointing defeat, I was a little bit crestfallen, but at the same time, I started noticing that the people around me were a lot more different than me than I initially thought. It's almost like I've always kind of been, this kind of principled kind of libertarian without even knowing what the word was. I just started noticing that there were certain nuances and minutiae within some of my friends' opinions that I started disagreeing with and maybe not really understanding particularly well. And that was it for me to really go, okay, so what else is out there? And once I started really looking, beyond the sort of lens that was kind of adopted to me by my sort of lefty pals, it was a kind of eye-opening experience. I kind of realized, oh my God, I've kind of been this way kind of the whole time. I still believe in all the same things I do, but just with a slightly different kind of lens on them. But yeah, the independence referendum was a fantastic time. I'm sure you guys enjoyed it as well.
Well, definitely. Again, that was like when you both of us became a bit more active.
Yeah.
In learning. I mean, a bit more about politics.
I considered myself to be political, but it was mostly based on conspiracy theories about 9/11 and stuff like that, which then corresponded to fuck the government. That was essentially my political opinion at the time. And again, it would fit in pretty well here. But then started getting in and starting learning what political parties actually stood for, and I was like, oh, well, I didn't agree with that one. I didn't agree with that one. That one seems all right. I'm yet to find a political party where I'm like 100% with them. I don't think one will ever exist unless I make it. But I sort of understand and feel the sort of, oh shit, I'm sort of left behind here.
I'm sure everybody feels like that. I'm sure even Caz, like as a libertarian, obviously like the idea is that like you don't want government and stuff like that, so you can be more open in that group.
We're the natural sort of politically homeless people, we disagree with everyone. Mm-hmm. It's somebody asked me once, I think it was somebody said it was Woody Harrelson or something, said the reason why I'm a libertarian / anarchist is because the way that most people feel about Trump is how I feel about all of them. And that's pretty spot on. I think that's pretty good. I mean, you do get this sense of being politically homeless. And that's why I kind of like the Scottish Libertarians, is because we've got it's a huge church of people that have come, political outcasts from all sides of the spectrum. We've had guys from the left of Gandhi to right at the till of the Hun join us, who used to be in serious circles that, would turn the stomach of any reasonable person, and this is why our group on Facebook is full of tankies and fascists. It's completely littered with like memery and trolling and that kind of thing. It's like it's what it seems to be. It's a natural kind of consequence of being completely and utterly politically disenfranchised. It's like, well, I'm just gonna watch the world burn. And I think a lot of people are starting to feel that way now, with all the restrictions coming in, not just in terms of, the lockdowns and so on, but, the hate crime bill and, all these, a right to protest even being jeopardized. I mean, it's, the hammer's starting to fall down so many times. It's, you can see, if not, not necessarily sympathize, but you can see a pathway as to why people are starting to become a little bit more politically apathetic.
Of course, another thing that's happened recently for the Libertarians, what's his name? Count
Dankula.
Count Dankula joined the Libertarians. He's running in, is it Ayrshire?
Ayrshire, yeah. He joined us, I think last year. He did a wee video, basically reading out our manifesto and agreeing with a fair chunk of it. That was a 2016 manifesto. We've got a new one out now, obviously. Yeah, he was just reading the manifesto, and so somebody asked him what it was that brought him to the party, and he mentioned that he saw a bunch of our banners kicking about outside his trial, because when we heard about the situation with him, we automatically that's a principled stance that we it's almost like our number one reason for existing is just free speech. That's where it came around as, and we were like, right, okay, here's an opportunity to show some support to someone, and show how we can, bring some solidarity to someone who's suffering the consequences of not living in a completely liberal free society. I mean, free speech is the bastion of a liberal society. It's what, stops us from, turning into despotic, horrible, fascistic states. And it's really important to be able to speak truth to power. And part of that freedom to speak truth to power is also their freedom to offend, and to make fun and to poke at things and to get to the bottom of shit. And if you can't do that, if you can't get to the bottom of shit, then you'll never get the truth. And the truth is then handed to you second hand. So we believe that so passionately that we saw, like, okay, I think I was one of the first, if not the first person to start. Okay, we're doing an event. We're starting a march. It started off as a march, but then it was, we had to do some sanction stuff, and the police weren't happy with this, that, and the next thing. So okay, it was going to just be a gathering outside the court when he came out for his hearing, and we just went down with the full shagging wagon. We'd got the whole the banners down and stuff. We got the media involved. We got some of the some independent folk were coming down and just running about with our phones, taking videos and stuff. It was brilliant. There was a lot of buzz going on, and that was the infamous moment when the journalist approached him and he says, "Oh, do you think it's appropriate to say gas the Jews?" And then he turned around and said, "Oh, well, you just said it, pal. Context matters, mate." And then just stormed past him. It's the absolute, it was the total mic drop moment for him. So it was that moment that kind of, I think, helped them recognise that we were kind of on his side from that perspective. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that the man's got a hammer and sickle tattoo. This is the kind of thing that I'm talking about with regards to it. It doesn't matter where where you hang your banner, what kind of stripes you wear, what football team you support. It doesn't matter. You'll find someone somewhere to relate to in the Libertarian Party. So that's why I'm a member.
Well, that's good. I was going to talk about like the sort of freedom of speech issue. One of the biggest things that you hear about on the left is, like, let's say, sort of namby-pamby people swearing that freedom of speech should be like near enough abolished a lot of the time, the way people speak. And I wanted to get your input on this, Craig, because you're like...
I would argue it's not left-wing people, let's say centre-left people. It's liberals that are doing that. I would argue that a lot of people on the left reasonably understand that as soon as you try and curtail free speech, it's going to be used on you instantly.
Yeah, exactly, aye.
And so I would argue that...
Sure, you hand it to the...
Yeah. On you go.
You hand the keys to the monster truck to the next right-wing politician that comes along.
Yeah.
That was the feeling from because I am a leftist, like within my sort of my genetic makeup, if you like. I believe in all the same things that real leftists and liberals to a certain degree believe in too. And freedom of speech is one of them. I mean, freedom of speech is what started the civil rights movement. It's what helped get emancipate women. It's what helped and all of these really important sort of what I consider to be liberal left wing movements that were sort of a process in sort of decoupling yourself from the state and becoming more individual. And like I say, free speech. Without it, what we do is we push all of the nastiness and offence and everything that we don't want to hear underground. I always use France as an example of this. It's they've taken it upon themselves to make Holocaust denial. Something which I think is totally abhorrent. It's something that I don't think has any weight or any merit. And people are free in this country to disagree with me. But me even bringing this up might be considered a crime in France. which I think is a real disservice, because now what happens is they've got a real problem with Holocaust denial, because this idea goes into an unchallenged echo chamber underground where the public eye and the public discourse can't rip it to pieces. It can't take it to bits. It can't ridicule it. It can't offend people that think these ideas. And that's really, I think, important. And a lot of people might say that's kind of bullying. And I suppose in a certain degree it is, but I do want to kind of maintain the freedom to hate, which brings me to the hate crime bill. You know, hate crime, you know, it's a real problem when we're now starting to police emotions. And I reserve the right to hate bigots and racists and thieves and charlatans and liars and all the other really sort of the notoriously bad elements of society that we should, we have a responsibility as a community to discourage, you know.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Sorry, I need to address this because it's now in my head and I can't go move on to the next question without mentioning the fact that you keep fucking fidgeting.
Sure.
Sorry. Aye, I'm a naturally fidgety bastard.
God, the whole time you were speaking, it was constantly just trying to touch the baby wipes. And I was trying to think of the next question. I was trying to go into the next bit, and because he kept fidgeting, I just kept thinking, "Fuck me." That he's still doing it.
You see, I'm always like sort of touching the microphone and moving it about. I don't know if you've noticed that before, but there's a
right. Yeah,
I'm one of these people that need a fidget spinner. I don't have one, so I have stuff to touch around about me.
Yeah, you legit need a fidget spinner.
Get to be cubes with all the mad buttons
That's
on them.
Exactly the one I need.
Buttons on them that do nothing.
That's exactly the one I need.
That's it. You get a wee BTN one. That'd be awesome.
That would be brilliant.
Oh, you have just saved my life. You've saved this podcast, Caz. Craig can now continue on.
That's it.
Yeah.
We can continue on.
Hating people, yeah.
Hating people, yeah. It's a fundamental human right, I think, you know what I mean? And I don't mean that like to be, you know, just like, obviously, like, people are going to spit on corner shop windows and all these types of things and sing horrific songs at each other and, you know, all these other problems that we have in Scotland and the Western world in general. I mean, let's not deny that these things are absolutely horrible and they should be condemned and to a certain degree as well punished, you know, but I have a real problem with people in an elite cabal, which is essentially what Parliament is, an elite cabal turning around and deciding amongst themselves what we can and cannot say in the dinner table, you know, at the dinner table, online, what videos we can post, that kind of thing. I mean, quite frankly, who the fuck do they think they are? To sit there in their little club, like a bunch of reprehensible lizards, and sit and try and criminalise us for mere thought. I think that is so abhorrent that I have actually wrenched myself back into the world of politics. Because I took a break. I was sick of this shit. I was like, I'm sick and tired of waking up every day, my head popping off the pillow, and some clown in Holyrood or Westminster or Brussels or some other cabal is telling me what the fuck to do. And it's really nipping my head to the point where it was like, right, I'm going to blue pill. I'm done, right? Shove the red pill up your ass. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. My Facebook page is now going to be awash with memery. And that's what I did for the past couple of years, but it's just got too much. Now we can't even fucking say words. We can't even post an opinion online without some suited prick in Holyrood and in Westminster or in Brussels or in the States telling us that we're criminals because of it. I'm sorry, but fuck you.
I think nice to put.
Yeah, I had to really end it on a point there because that's one of the reasons why I'm standing, because I want to get up there in person in a televised, documented fashion and ask them what the fuck they think they are playing at. It's an absolute joke. Notwithstanding the fact that there's corrupt individual next to dodgy bastard pouring out of that place in the media every 2 minutes, and they need an eye keeping on them. So it's getting beyond a joke. They're treating that place like a corporate casino, and it's got to stop. So that's what I'm standing. And the freedom of speech thing, the hate crime bill, I mean, that's the main thing that motivated me to do it. So it's like, what, now it can be arrested for having the anarchist cookbook? I mean, this is the kind of path that we're going down. Now it can be arrested for portraying a racist character in a movie. Like, say I get a job as an actor on stage, you know, that I believe has been changed for the hate crime bill now. But this was the kind of thing that they were toying with. Anybody that even wants to entertain that for a second does not belong in Parliament. I wouldn't trust them to drive, let alone run the country, if that's the attitude that they have towards their freedoms. It's beyond a joke. Beyond a joke.
Some of the things, as you say, some of the things have been changed, but the fact that a committee of people, I don't know who exactly wrote, I don't know who wrote the crime bill.
Would this be people?
The fact that people sat down and actually wrote these things, and they've checked it, they've had researchers, they're not stupid, there's lawyers there. I would imagine there's a bunch of lawyers there. They've wrote this,
of course, yeah.
and thought,
people are getting paid.
That's pretty good.
I think the comedian Bill Burr covered this, and we always like to go back to comedians because
comedians have some of the best wisdom in the world.
Yeah.
Well, let me just interject there for a moment, lads. Leo Kearse, who is actually running himself, he's running in Glasgow. Leo Kearse has come out and been one of the main sort of advocates against this ridiculous bill. Also, Free to Disagree campaign have also come out and they've done a whole load of stuff to help. If it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for grassroots people, individuals, private individuals coming forward and saying no to this shit, every other useless cretin in that snake pit in Holyrood would have let this through, all bells and whistles. I mean, we're talking Labour, Tories, Lib Dems, all of them. They're all a bunch of useless idiots. What are they there for? What are they doing there? So, yeah, they need an eye keeper up. But yeah, carry on, lads. Comedians, Bill Burr, you were saying.
Bill Burr was saying a while ago that, like, a lot of these groups, like the LGBTQ plus thing, there's like big groups like that, and there's like Jewish groups. There's like there's obviously like loads of groups that go around, and a lot of their time is focused on these like hate crimes and stuff like that. When there's really nothing happening in the world, they still have to produce some form of hate crime. They still have to be talking about it a lot of the time, and that's what Bill Burr was saying. Like, a lot of these things come from these guys not really having that much today. They really have to find stuff. So this is where a lot of these things are coming from. It is a privilege thing. I hate to use that term because it's been totally hijacked, but it does come from a place of privilege. It comes from a place of I'm so privileged that I've got all the free time in the world to sit and worry about these things. You know what I mean? I feel that way about a lot of stuff. I mean, especially when it comes to stuff like, you know, recycling and the climate change stuff. It's like I'm sure there are families in Indonesia somewhere that are a bit more worried about not having to sell their daughters off for prostitution so they can feed themselves than having a bag for life. I mean, it's like, it really puts things into perspective about what kind of things now that they have to drum up to seem relevant. And it's the fault of the government, again, because all it seems to be that they're doing these days, and Westminster and Holyrood are guilty of it, is all they're doing is pandering to these special interest groups, these tiny, loud minorities on Twitter that just kick up a huge fuss. And then because these boomers don't know how to use Twitter, they go, oh my God, we're getting Twitter stormed. This is the worst thing ever. These guys clearly represent the whole fucking electorate. Let's bend over backwards for them. That's essentially what's happened. And now we've got into such a tizzy that the rights that they're trying to sort of ascertain for people like trans people, for example, are now at odds with the rights that they just implemented for women not 2 minutes ago. So it's like they're trying to pander to all these little individual groups, and that's what Bill Burr was saying with these, like, you know, you've got these group number one wants this, group number two wants this. I mean, have you ever seen Bruce Almighty where he tries to give everybody what they want? Yeah.
I mean, that didn't exactly work out, did it? You know, I mean, that's a little microcosm of the whole idea of, like, if everybody wants a utopia, then it's going to be chaos because everybody's idea of utopia is different. And it's going to be at odds with the serious hammering legislation that they're using to beat each other up with.
there's another sort of real life example of this. So I briefly, like you, I sort of briefly stepped away from politics, and ended up working at 5 Centre for Equalities. So I guess technically still in politics,
right.
but like I was working at 5 Centre for Equalities, and I very quickly noticed that a lot of people used to attack 5 Centre for Equalities because they were getting funding that individual groups weren't getting funding for. So there'd be refugee groups and gay groups and I don't know what other groups, but a bunch of different groups were upset because 5 Centre for Equalities was getting funding, even though they all claimed to be fighting for the same thing. And it seemed to be everybody's just fighting with each other because they don't seem to actually care about equal rights. They seem to care about their rights at the specific moment because that's the group they're in. Yeah. And so identity politics just tends to just fucking cause friction between everybody, and it ends up working against everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a cancer at the moment. It's really poisoning kind of all elements of politics, especially when it comes to the kind of current culture war, for lack of a better term, you know. But I mean, it's all based on these kind of identities and making sure that these identities are protected in one way, shape, or form. I mean, to me, it really is a bit sinister. I mean, like I say, I'm an old school leftist, and when I look at this stuff, it doesn't seem that left wing to me. You know, when you're judging people by, you know, and separating them into groups by arbitrary physical characteristics, and then determining a hierarchy of either victimhood or threat. I mean, that's sinister to me, and it even boils right down to the idea of representation. Now it's like before it was like, oh, we need to get more, you know, we need to see more women and more minorities on the public stage. Now it's like we need to be represented by people who look like us and people who sound like us. And it's like, wait a minute, can you not be represented by someone who looks like you? Does that mean to say that if the majority of this country is white, had a black prime minister, that wouldn't be representative and therefore wrong, and he should be denied that role? I mean, if it was that way around, it seems ridiculous. But you know, it's like the idea of maybe getting a few quotas here and there for Parliament or this company or here, you know, this, that, here and there seems to completely omit the fact that in order for you to elevate someone in that kind of positive discriminatory way, you have to eliminate someone in a very discriminatory way. And that to me is fucking fascism. I mean, it seemed pretty obvious. I mean, this is the thing. Up and down are now different things now. You know, left is right and right is left. It's like, to me, the left nowadays, I look at them and I just see Al and Tipper Gore. You know, it's like you've got one guy who's trying to control our behaviour, and one woman is trying to control how we think, and that's essentially what it is. And I look at the right, and it's just completely inept. I mean, it barely even exists as anything other than a cartoon now, especially in Scotland. I mean, if it wasn't for the union, they would literally have no policies. Yeah. Nothing.
Yeah, apparently...
I mean, we've got Douglas Ross standing on a fucking tank.
Was he standing? Is that why he was standing on a tank?
Did you see that picture?
No, I've not seen the picture.
All the candidates have done it. You know, they're all a bunch of bloody idiots. You know, they've always got to have their Rule Britannia moment riding a tank, right? So at least when Ruth Davidson enjoyed it, like, you know, when she did it, she looked like she was having a bit of fun, having a bit of a laugh. But oh my god,
does he look serious? Is he trying to look like the big man?
He's trying to look kind of manly. I think like he's got his hands on his hip, but he looks like the little teapot more than anything else. It's fucking hilarious.
He's a fucking veteran man.
But I mean, Ruth's got 10 times more balls than him anyway.
I have to pretend not to be biased, so I need to pretend that he's probably all right.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. He's probably a very nice, complete streaky piss. Yeah, I'm sure he's lovely. Like,
I will not comment on that.
None of them are a threat. None of them are a threat. Yeah. Not a single one of them. I couldn't even tell you the Labour leader's name.
Anna Sarwar.
That's the one. Yeah.
I know that because I interviewed Labour a couple of days ago.
A couple of right, fair. But no, it's and Willie Rennie. I'll always remember Willie Rennie because he actually bumped into my shop one day. Came in the shop.
He bumped into your shop.
I think he lived there. He popped in, but I think he was just out and about campaigning one time. I didn't even know who he was at the time. It was my mum that had to tell me.
All right.
Who's that?
I bumped into
I'm sure there's a lot of people
David
don't know
Torrance
who he is. So.
At Pride one year. We were filming at Pride. I think it was the first year it existed. We got asked to film.
I like David. I met him on a bunch of times. Obviously, he's my MSP, and I met him at the counts and stuff as well. But yeah, I like David. He's a good lad.
Well, I didn't know who he was.
Sure.
And I think he assumed because we were at Pride and we were filming that we would have known who he was. Somebody must have went and got him to come over and speak to us because we were interviewing a bunch of people. So somebody must have went and got him to come here and speak to us, and he was just sort of hanging about awkwardly. And I was like, "Sorry, who are you?" And he was like, "I'm David Torrance." I was like, "I reckon who David Torrance is."
Well, that's because Leslie Laird came here as well. We were speaking to Leslie Laird because we'd met her previously before. And
Leslie, she's Labour, right?
She's Labour, right?
Yeah. And then David Torrance was like by us. Yeah. The side of us sort of thing.
So I felt bad that I didn't know who he was. But we're Glenrothes, so our MSP's Jenny Gilruth. So apologies to David.
Who's your MSP?
Jenny Gilruth.
Jenny. I thought it was couldn't remember. Peter
oh no, that's their MP.
No. That's your MP. Yeah, right. Yeah. See, we need to get rid of that place, and then it won't be so confusing.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. There's too many names you have to remember, and then you've got councillors on top of that.
Well, this is it. If we're talking about cutting jobs, mate, you're talking to the right guy. But that brings me neatly to Salmond. Like, I mean, I'm very curious, you know, as fellow secessionists, what you think of
well, Craig was
of Alex, yeah,
kind of. I don't know. You can explain this actually.
Again, this is annoying because I promised on Facebook that I wouldn't put my own politics into these podcasts, but it's been impossible so far. So I may as well just go ahead and start saying shit. So I was in.
You're no longer representing anybody, so you can talk about it.
That's true. Talk about it, what's done. That's true. So I was in AFI, which was.
Oh right, yes, okay, yeah.
So that was sort of the precursor to Alaba or Alapa.
What did you just do with your face there?
So a lot of SNP folk now are really pretentious and like shaming people for not saying Alapa right. So I like to purposely say Alba wrong, just to annoy them. But for the purposes of this,
quite right.
I'll say Alapa, right? So
ask those people if every time they go for a club sandwich, do they go, "Oh yes, I'll have a baguette." Yes, I'll have a baguette or a croissant. You know, you don't fucking pronounce it. It's just ridiculous.
Soon if we get the Alba guy on, I'm going to do it Fife as fuck. So it's AWBA.
Well, do you know what was
Alba.
Funny? I was watching the live stream they done today, and somebody who I guess was SNP had obviously heard all these criticisms of him not saying Alba right, and then Alex Salmond has started saying Alapa, and this guy came in and said, "Still not saying it right, obviously." He didn't know how he said it. He'd just been copying the arguments.
God's sake,
dickhead. So, as I was saying,
yeah,
I was in AFI, and we were sort of the precursor to Alapa, which has been confirmed. Mm-hmm. We got an email from Alex Salmond sort of thanking us and acknowledging the fact that we sort of, I think the email said held the torch for an indie supermajority or something. And then on our last rally, before we deregistered as a party, Alex Salmond sort of came into the meeting with us and had like a private Q&A session with us and sort of had a conversation and stuff like that. And that was quite nice. He sort of acknowledged us again. So that was quite nice. And then he also put forward that there was going to be a lot of left-wing people in Alapa, sorry. Pa.
It's a B, it's not a fucking... It's not a B.
But Gaelic's stupid. I'm going to get cancelled.
Oh God, we're going to get.
I'm going to get cancelled.
So cancelled.
We're going to get the Gaelic Association.
Oh, 3 of them. Oh,
that's it. Oh, it's okay. I don't think they're listed as a protected minority yet under the hate crime bill. Nor are Goths or Gingers, but I'm waiting for the day.
Oh, actually, we had on a science podcast
Oh, you made a mistake there.
A few weeks ago. I accidentally advocated for genocide against Gingers. And I was genuinely worried.
Accidentally.
No. What it was is I didn't advocate killing Gingers. I just advocated changing DNA so that Gingers would no longer be born.
The great thing is, the guest was actually Ginger.
He wasn't a Ginger.
He is. David Kirk, the molecular biologist, is a ginger guy.
I think he was proper ginger.
He's a real life ginger.
Nah.
Well, under my philosophy, I think you should have the freedom to do that. Just to create your own army of people with not a single genetic ginger in them, and start your own little country of anti-gingers.
You just had to move to a really non-sunny place so they could all survive.
Aye, Scotland. You could just stay in Scotland.
It'd be like Stalingrad, but the other way around. You know? Like they'd be roasting. Like, oh, God! Can't move.
Right, let's get off this before we all get fucking shot.
We're all going to die here.
This is good. You have to wheel out the firing squad for us if we don't delete this past 3 minutes of the conversation.
Right, so Alex Salmond. So he acknowledged he acknowledged us, and I think I'm going to say publicly that I think he stole their constitution. I think he did, because their constitution was pretty good, and theirs is pretty similar. Although I haven't read it, but I've had people that have read it talk about the similarities between.
What's the number one on the Constitution? Is it win independence?
I think I haven't read it, but I've heard I've heard people that have read it and that also contributed to our Constitution talk about the similarities between the two.
Is there literature out yet?
I think so.
Supposed to be this afternoon.
That wasn't it. The policies are actually getting thing within a couple of weeks.
Fucking hell.
I'm keen to see those, because I want to see how different they are to the SNPs, because obviously, I'm obviously like at the polar other end of the spectrum, whatever way it goes, up, down, left, right, wherever it goes. But I'm totally not for the SNP at all, despite being an independent supporter. So I'm kind of on board with this kind of supermajority kind of idea. I was like, that actually sounds pretty good, because I think the ceiling of ambition for the SNP and the Greens is probably just over half the chamber. Yeah. But we can utilise our PR system to actually get more independent candidates in there, rather than focusing on parties. We could have maybe 60, 70, 80% of the chamber full of independent candidates, and then they would have no way. They couldn't possibly say, well, you didn't vote for the SNP, so that means you don't want independence. Because we'd have the whole fucking chamber full of independent supporting candidates. So I'm kind of with him on that one. And it's the same kind of thing. It's like, oh, this is the idea, and I'm carrying my banner. Why don't you carry your own with me? Whereas the SNP are like, no, don't vote for them. Vote for us. Use both your votes for us. Both votes SNP. Go against the spirit of the Parliament. It's not meant to provide majorities. But let's try and get another majority. It's like, fuck that. It's like kicking a dead horse. The idea's done.
You done a spot-on impression of Nicola Sturgeon there, by the way, just at the beginning.
It was all right. I've been practicing.
He's been at his mirror every single night.
It's a beautiful, beautiful voice he's got.
I've been practicing cutting my own hair, just like Nicola.
Jesus.
I'm sure you look beautiful, man.
Gorgeous.
So, I think Alba is going to be different from the SNP. I think that's the whole point of them, is to also be different from the SNP. I think they're going to be very focused on women's rights. They've got a women's conference coming up. They're very focused on women's legislation. I don't know what that means. They're quite vague on it. But again, every single party is vague.
Them at odds with the SNP.
Yeah, I think it's an anti-GRA thing. I think that's what it is. It's anti-GRA. But they're just saying it's women's rights stuff. Again, vague. I hate vague. Yeah. I hate every single political party in the world because they're always vague Oh, actually, I was.
It's all pretty vague.
I was arguing. Who was arguing with? No arguing, but I was arguing about. I think it was with the Greens. About we were talking about the SNP. Their newest thing was that they're going to quote unquote renew every play park, which is like cool, fine. Bairns need play parks. That's cool. I like that. But I don't know what renew means. Renew could mean anything from brand new play parks to painting the play park. Just tell me what the policy is.
To turn the place into an Iron Maiden album cover.
Yeah.
Which would be awesome. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like, you know my feelings on this, guys. I think outsourcing the fucking any responsibilities from play parks to fucking health to a fucking layman politician who couldn't make it in the private sector is probably not a good idea. You know, that's my general principle of the whole thing. You know, it's like I was recently in a hospital, and between then and now, I had a rather serious accident. I'm sorry to report, but I'm all right now. And I got firsthand, what a fantastic job that everybody in the NHS does. You know, they're so hardworking and they're so talented, and we've got talented, hardworking staff that are overpaid and overworked, underpaid and overworked throughout this entire ordeal, and prior to that, being orchestrated by some Tory. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I think individuals should be left to their own devices, especially when it comes to really talented, hard-working ones that are on pittance and working 120-hour weeks. It's an absolute joke.
So this is nothing to do with elections, but it is a fun question that I want to ask. This is a pre-question to my actual question. Do you still consider yourself an anarcho-capitalist?
Yeah, I suppose I do, because, I mean, I still believe in capitalism, but I don't believe in the capitalism that, is often portrayed nowadays. I mean, the capitalism that we're looking at is almost all orchestrated through the state. The reason why Amazon is doing so well right now is because they've got, the state in their pocket. Take my local area, for example. They've completely dominated the job sector with this huge warehouse, and I don't think it's any secret what working for Amazon is like. Yeah. Especially this big, huge distribution warehouse that got all the grants under the sun by the SNP, and they got all the bells and whistles to open up this warehouse. Now they dominate the whole job sector over here, and because they pay the quote unquote living wage and can afford to do that, and because they get so many grants, and they're big enough to circumvent all the red tape, and they're big enough to order a team of lawyers to circumvent all that red tape. So they are able to do that through the state, and because they just tick a couple of boxes from a politically fashionable point of view, the state let them get away with it, let them do it, despite the fact that there's like literal dirty dealings going on under the table. All right, we'll let you open your warehouse if you do this, that, and the next thing. And all right, okay, it's like, we'll put the whole country on lockdown. You say, all right, no, let's not go there. But I mean, it's like just have to start looking at the people that have really benefited from an awful lot of government decisions in the past few years, to realise that maybe ask yourself the question: if this was a true free market, where these guys would have had to make it on their own without government help, would they be there? I don't know.
So as a socialist, I agree with everything you've just said there. That's crazy, eh? To people who don't know
I'm a socialist from that perspective.
So to people that don't know any of us, that's going to sound mental, that a socialist just agreed with an anarcho-capitalist. They're going to be
this is it. I mean,
insane by that.
We care about the same things, just through a different lens. I mean, yeah. I hate massive corporations, using these situations. I mean, this is one of the reasons I left the EU. I wanted to leave the EU, and I voted to leave the EU is because I see it as a racist, protectionist corporate casino that, disproportionately forces pulls the ladder of progress up behind them while waving the finger of displeasure at developing nations. I think it's disgusting. That's not capitalism. Capitalism is me trading you some oranges for some apples. Capitalism is me doing, me washing your car for. the government would come and say, you're due us a pound of that. It's like got fuck all to do with it. And that's the same thing when it comes to, washing your car or marrying you. It's none of the fucking government's business. So I think they should just stay the hell out of it. And this is the thing, I keep referring to myself as an old school leftist. So I would even say I was a Marxist now by the standards, because what was public, or what is deemed to be or perceived to be public, which is the state, it's not. It's a private club of lizards that get there by the privilege of being born into wealthy families. I mean, that is the antithesis of public. It's very much a private elitist club. So that's why I don't agree with nationalisation, because it's not Marxist to give all that power to an elite club of people. It's Marxist to give that power or leave that power to the people, to each individual, to everybody. Everyone should be able to do that. But, the governments and so-called big socialists, like Labour, love, they love this. Even the Tories, they love the socialism shit. The old money aristocrats, they love it because it stops all the little guy pissing in their pool.
So my second question. You've kind of half ruined this already for me. Because it's kind of hard to ask this question after you've just. Never mind. I'll just ask the fucking question.
Yes.
So there's a parkour group called Storer, right?
That is not where I thought it was going.
No, I can't. That's not where you thought it was going.
That's a way left curve. I love it.
Yeah. So parkour is. I assume you know what parkour is.
Yeah, it's the guys that do the athletics, running over buildings and doing, that kind of thing.
It's an objectively cool sport. Sometimes
without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, they sometimes jump into private property. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think they should be allowed?
Well, I mean, property, especially when it comes to land. I mean, that's a tricky one, because it's something I've actually wrestled with myself over the past couple of years, because it's like, okay, who owns the land? It's like
Storer.
Okay, say it again.
The parkour guys own the land.
Right. So, but I mean, like in general, who owns land in general, right? So it's like, say I have a piece of land and I say it's mine. By what virtue is that my land? Okay, then I've got a piece of paper that says that belongs to me. Okay, cool. Then but again, it doesn't belong to me. I'm just the steward of that land. That land. It's one of those weird ones. So I think, generally speaking, when it comes down to private property, generally it's up to the individual. So if it was my property, and I saw a bunch of guys just jumping over my garden or running over my garden shed or doing something like that. Provided they weren't doing any damage, I wouldn't care. But I would also put that it's up to the landowner to defend their property or protect it if it means that much to them. So they should put fencing up, or they should put that kind of thing. That's the principled stance of it. So I don't necessarily think what they're doing is wrong, because they're not causing any harm. It'd be different if they're going about vandalizing or if they're setting things on fire, or that's different. All right. But no, from my perspective, it's down to the property owner to stop that if that's not something that they want to do. Again, we don't have to outsource these things to the government. We've got really pretty good courts in this country. Civil courts are damn good. We have a really robust common law kind of system. Or a lot of its precedents is based on common law. So I think that coupled with that kind of legal kind of idea, coupled with the idea that if it's your property, then it's your responsibility. I think that problem can solve itself. I don't think you have to outsource it to the government.
See,
that's a very long-winded answer, but there it is.
Stephen thought that was a fucking stupid question.
No, listen, I thought it was weird that you brought up parkour.
No, but
I was interested to see where you were going.
Yeah, but parkour.
Here's a funny one. Here's a really funny one because since I'm a total nerd about this stuff, we talk about this stuff on the Libertarian group on Facebook. By the way, we plug Scottish Libertarians, small L. We've gone for a small L deliberately because not everyone's really a libertarian in the group. So, but yeah, like I say, it's full of tankies and fascists. It's a great laugh. But we talk about this stuff all the time because we talk about like the non-aggression principle and the whole idea of private property. If I switch on my bedroom light, the light leaks over to someone else's property. That technically is an act of aggression, according to the NAP, right? So it's like, what about heat? If I light a fire on my property line and that heat moves over to your property line, are you due me money now because I'm heating you and you're taking some of my energy? So this is all these really silly questions that you can answer yourself with the idea of the NAP, which is why I'm probably one of very few libertarians that you'll probably speak to that actually rejects it. I don't think it fails the NAP as a law, a rule, a guiding principle, whatever. I mean, it is basically just a guiding kind of. I think it was initially intended as a kind of guiding principle. It was never meant to be some kind of, almost kind of rule of thumb that if you're a libertarian, you believe in the NAP. I mean, I never really subscribed to that. But I understood the NAP, but there's some real problems with it. So I think if you just sort of, I kind of now reduce my kind of libertarianism and my anarchy and my freedom to the idea of, okay, well, what would you do? How do you feel about that? How would you and I solve that problem? If I was the parkour man running your garden, how would you approach the situation? Because that's probably closer to the truth and closer to what's going to happen than anything a politician or a company or a committee can come up with. And again, if you have disagreements to the point where you really can't solve your problem, we have courts for that. Yeah. Pay a really good lawyer. That's what they're for.
So my parkour thing, it's kind of similar to like my neighbour thing. Like I don't care if my neighbour plays loud music. Like I could sleep through loud music. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. But it needs to be something good. Like I'm more likely,
as long as it's good.
If I'm going to complain about music, it's going to be that the music you're listening to is shit, not that I can hear the music. And similar to if somebody's doing parkour in my garden. Like, if you're good at doing parkour, you could use my garden.
I'll probably sit and watch.
Yeah, but if you're shit at parkour...
falling over and crushing my rose bushes...
Yeah.
Aye, yeah.
So you need to be good at the thing.
To me, it's like, cool, come and do like a triple backflip and that.
But if you can only do a single backflip, you're shit, go away.
But just didn't volley my bedroom window.
Yeah.
Just stay away from the windies.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, well, here's a slightly more kind of political kind of spin on it, right? You're looking at basically traveling all other people's property. So a lot of people, including myself, we have a big problem with fox hunting, right? Fox hunting is I think it's a fucking terrible sport, and it shouldn't be played by anyone ever. But the fact is, people are going to play it. They're going to play it, and they're going to do it, and they're going to do whatever they're going to do on their property, regardless of whether or not the government intervenes. And usually the government intervening, in quotation marks, usually means making some kind of arbitrary law or ban or tax and asking people just to pay their taxes and pat themselves on the back and, the problem go away. But then the fox hunting ban. The problems that the fox hunting ban has caused is 10 times what it solved, because it hasn't really solved anything. Because the whole idea is to try and ban fox hunting, and fox hunting now doesn't stop. It just continues on. They trespass on other people's land. They do it privately. They do these illegal hunts all over the country. And now as well, like the consequences of that ban have meant that farmers are now got it into their head. Oh shit, there's no ban anymore, so there's going to be foxes everywhere. Which again, there's no correlation for. There's no correlation for some reason that fox hunting calls foxes. It doesn't do that. But everybody's got it in their head that there's going to be all these foxes if the ban was lifted. So what they started doing is putting traps everywhere. They put these snare traps, and they snare wildlife, domestic animals, all these types of things, and animals take days and days and days to die with these things. They're absolutely brutal. And you see a massive increase in these types of things. So it causes ripple effect. And I think that's a really good analogy for whenever you try and outsource a problem to a politician, that, and they move their little chess piece. The consequences of that chess piece are really hard to figure out and really hard to determine at first hand, especially without some kind of cost-benefit analysis, which these days seems to be completely alienated from the conversation entirely. It certainly didn't help us any when it came to lockdown.
Mm-hmm. There you go. You got any more questions to ask for me?
Well, I normally have a critical question for them to struggle with at the end, but I've not really got one.
Oh.
Every other party has their hypocrisy somewhere, and so I'll mention that at the end and ask them to sort of explain away their hypocrisy. But there isn't really...
I suppose I could tell you what it is.
So what is...
That could be the question. What's your party's hypocrisy?
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. What's the Libertarian Party?
I'm happy to be honest about it. We've got a bit of a dichotomy, a bit of a weird thing going on where it's obviously we don't believe in government, and now here we are asking you to vote for us. So there is the hypocrisy. But I'm not really asking anybody to vote for me. I mean, the reason why I'm standing in the list for Mid Scotland and Fife and the Kirkcaldy constituency. And the reason why I'm standing is because I want to vote for the person, the only person. There's only one person in the whole world that's qualified to make decisions about my life and spend my money and do my shopping for me, and that's me. So if I want to get involved in this game called democracy, I need to stand. I have to stand and vote for myself because I'm the only person qualified to do that. So once I'm there, my plan is to, I've outlined my plan at the start. But once I'm there, I mean, the idea is to get in the way. I don't want them spending our money. I don't want them to make stupid decisions. I don't want them to tell us what to do, what to say, what to think. I'm just going to go there and tell them no. I'm going to give you your money back because I want mine back. I'm going to get my money back. That's basically it. I want them to tax me less, but take less of my money and stop giving it to Amazon. I want it back, and in doing that, everyone else gets their own back because I trust all of you and me to spend our own money better than anyone else running for the candidacy, and that I think that makes me unique in that regard. It's like the only difference, I think, the main difference between sort of a libertarian candidate and all the rest is all the rest are pretending not to be irresponsible clowns. We wear it on our sleeve, which is why we're giving you your money back and why we want to spend our own money on stupid things like guitars, in my case.
You can do your bit now.
Well, unfortunately...
But he's kind of ruined some of it.
Unfortunately, what we usually do, Caz...
Well, I could go through some policy plans or something.
We'll see how it goes. Well, what we usually do at the end, Caz, to finish off, is we give each candidate, based on my hatred towards only giving candidates like 2 or 3 minutes and like sound bites and stuff, like hustings and radio shows and stuff, giving you like 2 or 3 minutes and stuff. So based on my hatred of that, we're going to make you do it. Cool. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, Caz, to tell the voting public why they have to vote for you. 3, 2, 1, go.
Don't do it. Don't vote. Don't vote for me. Take some responsibility over your own life. Spend your own money. It's got nothing to do with me. The only reason why I'm standing is so I can spend my own damn money. I don't even want to be here. I don't even want the job. I'm just doing this because I'm sick and tired of being told what to do, what to think, how to think. I'm sick of the stupid hate crime bill. I'm sick of not being able to protest. I'm sick of being able to not go out of my house without wearing a fucking mask. I'm sick of standing outside of Sainsbury's. I'm sick of it all. And if you're sick of it as well, then maybe you might agree with me. But for the love of God, don't vote. Don't do it. Don't do it. Stand and vote for yourself because you're the only person qualified to spend your money. I'm not going to spend your money for you. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do everything in my power that I can to get that back. And while I'm at it, I'm going to stand there in a televised and documented fashion and tell every single one of them what reprehensible cunts they are and what they think they're playing at with regards to our civil liberties that people have bled to fight for. Generations and generations of people have bled for these freedoms. And these clowns think they could sign them away on a piece of paper. Well, fuck that. How was that?
Knee points!
That was it. Well, 1 minute 20 we got there, Caz. Perfect.
Yeah, cool. I was a few seconds short, but I was like, is this 2 minutes? Ah, fuck it.
Yes,
I'll drop the mic there. That'll do.
Well, this is the thing.
That's not a real thing. We just did this so we could say knee points, prick. That's the only reason we've asked you to do that.
Knee points, prick.
We kept that for we interviewed Sanjeev Kohli, who plays Naveed on the Still Game.
All right.
So we kept that.
I've actually worked with him a couple of times. Oh. Yeah,
Shit, we forgot to talk about your acting as well. Fuck.
Oh, well, maybe I have to do that next time.
Aye, come on, we'll get you back on to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, that sounds good, guys. I've had a great time. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, man. No problem at all. Well, we'll let you go, Caz.
Any last wee bits and pieces?
We've got anything to add?
Still got everything, eh?
Cool.
Cool, guys. Well, I've had an absolutely brilliant time. Thanks very much.
No problem
at all.
Right, dude. Cheerio.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, guys.